Good morning and welcome to the Longboat Energy PLC operational update investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and they can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I would like to submit the following poll, and I would now like to hand you over to CEO Helge Hammer. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you. And good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending. Today I have James Menzies with me. He's chairing our Southeast Asia business development effort. Great pleasure to present today and reveal a little bit more on the path that the company is on at the moment. The Longboat business is to build a full cycle E&P business. And by that, we mean that we are going to have both production, development, and exploration activity. We've done this before, and our methodology or our approach is M&A and drill bit. And in Norway, we already have a number of discoveries, and we have first production coming through with our transaction on the Statfjord satellites. And in Malaysia, we have made the entry by getting operatorship of Block 2A in the deep water, which is a giant gas prospect. So this year, we've done a number of transactions, and most significantly, a transaction with Japex, which we'll come back to, and also a transaction with Topaz and our first production deal. And all of that has put us in an excellent position from where we are now. And we're very excited about all the opportunities that we are looking at the moment. Focus now is very much on getting production in both regions, both in Norway and in the Southeast Asia region. We are shareholders ourselves and are very focused on creating shareholder value with everything we do. It's all about actually having a very strong team and having good people, which is what we have in Longboat. We have a very strong group with very significant competence, both on Norwegian shelf and the Norwegian industry, and also in the Southeast Asia region. We've done this before. We have both in terms of business development, in terms of technical competence, and the relationships we have across the industry. I'll hand over to James a little bit on the track record. Thanks.
Yes, thanks, Helge. I mean, I'd also emphasize, I think, on that last slide, when you look at the people in this company, it's highly unusual to have expertise in the two different areas, which I'm going to mention here. But, also you frequently see companies that are full of bankers and accountants. And we have got a lot of financial innovation and expertise within the board and the senior levels of the company, but we also have a huge depth in terms of the technical and operational and engineering, and that's what I like to see on that slide. So I always take great comfort when I see small E&Ps that have got a very strong technical and operational piece in their DNA. But this is the other bit that Longboat have, and it's the background. It's the Faroe experience and the Salamander experience put side by side. In many ways, kind of sister companies on the London Stock Exchange. Faroe grew very successfully, built their portfolio in the UK and Norway, and ultimately were acquired by DNO in 2019. Salamander, very similar path in Southeast Asia, focusing on Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, also Malaysia, and were acquired by Off-Air Energy in 2015, coincidentally for roughly the same sort of value. And this is showing you really the life cycle of the independent on the London market. And what I want you to take away from this is this is a journey. These companies started around a kitchen table, and they end up being acquired for large sums of money on the London. So I think, you know, Longboat isn't a kitchen table. It's much more highly evolved than that. But really, this is a journey that you know, Longboat want to be on. We've done it before in two different areas. We know how it works. We're very familiar with the challenges of getting deals done, wells drilled, portfolios managed, and ultimately leading to a successful acquisition or resolution for the shareholder base. So, you know, this is something that I hope people will look at and believe that we know what we're doing. You know, we've walked this. So, you know, we're there. On the next slide, I think another, and I'll let Helga say about this, but I think what I would really point to, or I would love investors to look at here, is this financing that Longboat announced with Japex is very, very innovative. I don't know any other E&P that's done anything similar to this. So, you know, this is not a trivial matter. You know, this is a very, very strong vote of confidence by the Japanese government, actually, in Longboat's ability to build a business in Norway. So it's them coming to the ball and wanting to dance with Longboat. But Helga, do you want to?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, James. No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a very unique deal, and Japex is a conservative, long time established E&P company. They were formed in the 50s actually, and they listed in 2003. They are very technical, very financially solid, and they were looking at getting into Norway, and they chose Longboat. And it shows the competence that we have in Norway. It shows the strength of our team, and we have formed a deal which is, as James points out, very innovative. It actually recapitalizes our subsidiary company without any dilution to shareholders. We got up to 20 million of cash that was paid for the share, the 49.9% share. And we also have $100 million financing facility, which has a 6% interest initially, going 6, 7, 8, 10, 13. That is very low cost of capital in today's market. And that also is very unique for a small company to have access to such low cost debt. And it's subordinated. By that, it means it can then be also added up with bank debt or bond debt. So basically 100 million could be 200 million in a transaction. So this is great. This puts us in a brilliant position in Norway to pursue the M&A opportunities that are there. And Norway is not a small country in terms of E&P. It's a small country, but it has still production of 4 million barrels per day, half of it gas. There are something like 20 to 30 field development plans maturing. There is 30 to 40 exploration wells being drilled per annum. It's a huge industry and very active industry, and strongly supported by the government. We are in a very, very good position to grow in this area, and we are looking at a number of opportunities. We are also very conscious that we don't want to do anything stupid or do any bad deals. So we have a very high threshold, but you know, there are lots of quality assets, and we're working to deliver our next deal in Norway. We already have a position in Norway. We've drilled a number of wells. We made discoveries. The best of these discoveries is the Kveikje discovery, which is excellent quality, so-called injectite reservoir, which are very, very productive, have light, very producible oil in it. So this is clearly commercial and underway to development. It will be part of a development that is at the moment anyway, or is operated by Equinor. But there are a number of players in this area, so there's a bit of an alignment that needs to happen, and there's a huge amount of activity at the moment to put this quite sizable development project together. The other asset I want to highlight today is the well we drilled this year, the exploration well Velocet, which unfortunately is sub-commercial size, but it is a successful play opener. It found gas and it found high quality reservoir, and there are many more of these anomalies in the license. So that one is being matured technically before a decision is made on where to go next. So, I mean, all of these exploration wells, sometimes they need some time before the values come through. I'll hand over to James on the giant Katang Prospect.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we're changing gears here in exploration terms quite radically, because now we're looking at a monster, and both ourselves as Topaz originally and Longboat as operator got awarded this license, and now of course Longboat have acquired Topaz, so we're all in one, which is great news because it gives us 52.5% of this license. It's a huge area. It's over 12,000 square kilometers, so it's a huge bit of acreage, and there are multiple prospects all over it. But there is one particular standout, Katang. You've heard us talk about it before. You may have heard me talk about it before, but it's one of those structures that just won't go away. It doesn't matter what you do to it. You can't get rid of this prospect. It's immense in terms of its size. We screen this and we've had external people looking at it and giving it a size between 8 and 10 trillion cubic feet of gas, which is, I don't know. You may not understand the volumetrics of these things, but I can tell you that is a world-class monster. So it's a big one. We can see the seismic there. It's got gas clouds sitting above the structure. You've got brights in the seismic. That's basically indicating there's gas in there that's making the seismic light up. It's a very, the other point to make about this, it's sitting in Southeast Asia's exploration hotspot. In 2022, I think there were 16 wells drilled in Malaysia, exploration wells, of which 10 were discoveries and 8 of them were in Sarawak. So this offshore area has seen a lot of success in the last couple of years, and that's continued this year, where we've seen more gas discoveries to the south of Katang in the shallower zone. So where we see brights above the main structure, Petronas have been finding gas in those reservoirs too. It's a very similar looking feature to two big giants that are undergoing development now, called Kasawari and Langlaba. They're two big fields that sit out in the central Laconia area here, and they're around 5 to 6 TCF each, but they have a lot of CO2 in them. This particular feature, we've done the seafloor sampling, and we don't see any CO2 in the seafloor sediment, but we do see a lot of methane, very, very high concentrations of methane, which is what you want to see. So we're extremely excited about it. It has all the right ingredients technically. And of course, commercially, this gas would go to Bintulu, which is an LNG plant on the coast of Sarawak. It's the second largest LNG plant in the world. It's got 9 trains, and it's going to be short of gas, of feedstock. Even with these new discoveries, the feedstock to the plant is coming off. So now we have 52.5%, as I mentioned. The really good thing about that is we are very confident we're going to farm this down to get this drilled. It probably won't be drilled until 2025, because we're going to join a drilling program that Petronas will put together. So we'll take a slot within that. But we'll look to farm this down early next year. Right now, the focus of the work is really on with such a huge closure, where do to be frank with you, most prospects, the drill location kind of offers itself up. But here, do you go to the north? Do you go to the south? Do you try and hit the reservoir in a certain area? What about the shallow amplitudes? So it's a lot of debate as to where we should drill this, and we're working with our partners on a drill location. Once we have that and we put together the detailed drilling program, we'll take it to the farm out market. We've got plenty of equity here to farm down. And of course, this is a big company project. And, big companies want 25, they want 30%. That's what they need, so we have that to offer them now. So, we're confident this is going to get farmed down. We're not going to be putting our own dollars into drilling here. We'll be using other people's. So extremely exciting project to have. And of course, it's given us an operatorship in an area where we see high profile, big companies, blue chip companies operating. So, Longboat sits out in Malaysia as a tier one operator alongside the likes of Shell and Exxon, people like that. So it's no mean achievement, and it's a fantastic calling card to have in Malaysia as a start. On the next slide, as we've been saying, we don't want to be a pure explorer. I mean, it's a good way to get going, but actually we're looking for deals, and that's the history of Salamander and Pharaoh. So we're looking at the M&A market in Southeast Asia. It's quite a simple market. Generally speaking, the larger companies are exiting. So the majors see it as non-core to them these days. We don't see any competition from private equity. The national oil companies have been buyers, though they seem to be a bit full at the moment. But it has given rise to quite a number of smaller independents who are growing, and Longboat can absolutely be on that train. And even some of the domestic players, Malaysians and Indonesians, have actually grown quite rapidly in the last few years as a result of this liquidity in the asset market, if you like. So I think you'll see probably the next transformational step in Asia, at least, will be in the M&A market for us. So there's good liquidity. There's a number of deals we're chasing hard. We're very focused, obviously, on the cash metrics around that, but that's where we're going. On the next slide, I think the other great thing, of course, about Asia and how it links in with Norway, even here. But in Asia, it's a large young population that has very high growth rates, as we saw on that previous slide, and actually most of the primary energy is generated by coal. So what we expect to see in the middle here is actually gas be relatively stable over the mid to long term. We're going to see renewables come in at the expense of oil and particularly coal in Asia. So from an ESG point of view, this is a real win-win. We can be looking for developments and production assets which are displacing coal from the primary energy mix. So we like gas generally. We're not averse to oil, but generally gas is a good thing. And as we see on the right hand side here, we're in areas which are net gas exporters. So if you're looking at the transition in a stepping back and taking a macro view, I think both of these two jurisdictions are very, very good in terms of how gas can play, displacing some of these other heavier fossil fuels. Helge?
Thanks, James. Just to finish off, I think the point we're making today is also that this is not a Norwegian team that is trying to use its skills in Norway in a different region. I mean, I think there are many of examples of that going quite horribly wrong. We have a very, very strong team in Longboat for Norway, focused on Norway, working on Norway. We also have a very strong team focused on Southeast Asia, who has strong competence and a huge network and experience in Southeast Asia. So we are in a strong position to deliver growth, production deals, and successful exploration wells in both Southeast Asia and in Norway. Following the deals that we've done this year, starting with entering Malaysia and getting an incredible license in the offshore deep water in Sarawak, and then delivering the Japex transaction, and we talked about that earlier, which is putting us into a very unique position in Norway, being for a small company in a strong position, not being subject to finance for deals of the right size. Then consolidating our position in Katang with a Topaz deal, and having James and Pierre joining us, and then finally doing our first production deal in the Statfjord satellite. It's a rather small production deal, but it has a lot of upside in it, and it has tax synergy. All of that combined is putting us into a really, really strong position for what's to come into next year. So I'm very, very excited about that. And finally, we are shareholders ourselves. So we are not keen to do some sort of very, very value dilutive or disruptive thing. We're very focused on delivering deals that are value accretive in all senses of that word, and that's that's the kind of opportunities we're focused on. So thank you everyone for attending, and I think we'll have time for some questions, relatively short Q&A session. So that's coming up next. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. There are some questions that popped up. I'll read some out, and Helga and I will attempt to answer them. So the first one is our initial transaction was a small production deal. Can we expect something of size fitting our ambitions near term? I mean, I would just answer that with yes. We should. I mean, that's why we're here. We're putting a huge amount of effort into that, and we're running hard at a number of things. And in our experience, you work hard enough, something gives. So yes, I think
I agree with that. And just to add to that, I think we're also conscious that we're not going to do something which is ridiculously big. So I think there is a right size deal, but the right size deal is a deal that kind of look at shareholder value and also kind of takes into account the size of the company. But in deals in the range, that kind of fits in Norway, fits with the facility we have, and likewise in Southeast Asia, I would say.
Then there is, are we likely to see shareholder dilution next year? Well, I think I would say, given two things. First of all, the innovative deal that Longboat done with Japex, that didn't give any shareholder dilution. But of course, when one man shareholder dilution, okay, but we would always say, look, we're only going to be doing these things if it's value accretive on a per share basis. So from a shareholder's perspective, we would be doing deals which is going to see your shares worth more. Helga, anything to add to that?
I think that summarizes it actually. So good, thanks.
Full production from Statfjord East when all the wells are on stream. Maybe you might have ahead, Helga.
Yeah, the question is, what will the production be when all the wells are producing in Statfjord East? We have a field that is currently just producing from one well, and that's the well that was in there from before. That well was drilled from the platform, and then they've installed a subsea wells. They installed gas lift in those wells, and we've drilled 4 out of 5 new wells. Those wells are looking good, but I'm not going to quantify anything here except saying that you should see a very significant increase when you go from 1 to 5 wells. Yeah.
Then we have a question on exploration track record, which I paraphrase, saying that, it's been patchy in Norway. Can we assure investors we'll concentrate on development and production from now on? I mean, I think I would say that exploration is a long-term game, and we don't want to be an exploration company per se. We see it as part of a wider portfolio. It has a role to play, but you need to have a balance of the production to help you play that long-term game, and then you have to take measured risks. And I think exploration works well if you can farm down and get other people to take the financial risk on your behalf.
Yeah.
So absolutely, we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but we still see value in it. But it's not something that we should expect.
No. I think I agree with that, James. I think what we are basically following the same recipe as Faroe Petroleum did and Salamander did, and we focused on M&A. And particularly, we have already drilled quite a few exploration wells. With exploration, you're always looking for that really big bang that can kind of lift the share price. The 5 baggers and the 10 baggers, that's wonderful stuff. Maybe Katang would be one like that. But occasionally, you find stuff that would take a bit of time to mature. And with Faroe and Salamander, we had quite a few of those. Eventually, the value came through, and I'm very confident that will happen this time again. We will explore, but we will explore at a much more a lower pace, I would say, and more focused, and also being very, very focused on minimizing exploration spend. So farming out rather than farming in is kind of a key to being successful in that sense.
Okay, has the Topaz transaction completed? I think we are awaiting one document, one letter, but informally, we're told it's on its way. We've had email, so to all intents and purposes, it's there. But I think we are awaiting. So it's not a condition, but it's just one bit of paperwork needs to come in. But it should close imminently. So I would think of it as being there. Then a rather financially technical question. Will the initial first year 6% interest rate on the Japex facility run from the date of drawdown or from the date of completion of Japex's investment in Longboat?
It's from the date of drawdown. It's from we start using it.
Yeah. Okay. Then a question on the farm down of, I'm guessing, Katang here, and the sort of deal we'll look for. Will you negotiate a signing bonus to help fund the PLC? Look, you try and get the best deal you can. So rest assured, we'll maximize what we can get for it in all sorts of ways. What we want to do is give investors a shot at this prospect without having to put the hand in the pocket, and we'll keep that as meaningful as we possibly can. And if we can get cash as well, that's wonderful. Certainly, the interest we've seen from the industry so far gives us really optimism for getting a cracking deal done there. So that's what we're going to work towards. One other question on Katang: why we think the CO2 risk is low. I mean, but methane risk is high. There is a seafloor. Once we showed this prospect to Petronas, they were running a seafloor coring survey in the area. They had a vessel out offshore taking seafloor samples. And when we showed them the prospect, the vessel went over to the prospect and took a survey over the prospect itself, analyzed the cores in the seafloor. And you would expect to see CO2. If there's a CO2 leaking out of that structure, you'd expect to see it in the seafloor sediment. And they're only minimal. There was some CO2, but it's very, very small. But extremely high concentrations of methane. That's what's giving us cause for optimism there. Would we keep operatorship? I think we're absolutely not beholden to keeping operatorship through the drilling of a prospect. If you have a big player, often they want to do this themselves. Completely understandable. Timing for Katang farm down, we would look for first half next year. Question on any news on the tax rebate that was due this month. I'm not sure, Helge, maybe you might.
Yeah, I mean, the tax rebate, yes, but I think we have to be careful disclosing that because it's like financial, but you know, you can basically estimate that, but the tax rebate is a dead cert, you know, like it's the Norwegian tax office paying back our expiration spend, and that is more than the draw on the EFF facility. So there is a positive cash impact on our bank account. I mean, all I can say is that has happened and is positive news. I think I'm not kind of positioned to say exactly what the number is.
Okay. Then, okay, let's just take a couple more. One again on the Japex facility, Helge. Will you access the Japex facility to fund the small Norwegian production deal?
Yeah, there will be a small draw on that facility for that completion. That's kind of there's a lot of calculations on like working cap. We know the working capital calculations there, but that there will be a small draw. But you know what exactly it will be, it depends on kind of fine-tuning calculations on working capital.
Excellent. And last one, you already have 3D seismic and other data on the Katang prospect. How much would it have cost to have done all that data collection from a standing start? Well, I can tell you, it's high quality, extensive 3D over that block. With that alone would have run you to, I don't know, $20-30 million, I'm thinking. And plus the seafloor, coring, plus, of course, the time it takes to shoot all that. I mean, that's the other thing is, we've come into this block and all the data is there, is just waiting for you. So it's a fantastic job. And I think, we really love working with the Malaysians. They've done a tremendous job at exciting the industry about what's going on in Malaysia by giving them access to their database. So they've effectively opened up everything they have. Now, Malaysia as a country, it's very difficult to enter. The barriers to entry are very high for the industry. But if you're in, they're extremely accommodating. And to be honest, I'm not aware of anywhere else in the world that's done anything quite like this. But yeah, we've walked into, 2D seismic, high quality 3D, all the analysis we want. And, it's not just over 2A, by the way. We have access to other data too, as do the other players in country. It's a level playing field, but it's a fantastic opportunity for companies who want to build a business there. So, we're very, very appreciative of what they're doing. Sorry, I waffled on a bit there. It's true. I think we've called it quits. I think that's all the questions answered anyway.
Thanks, James. I think we answered everything. Thanks a lot.
That's great. That's great, Helge. James, thank you for that. And I believe you have addressed all the questions for investors today. And of course, the company can review all questions submitted today, and we will publish those responses on the Investor Meet Company platform. But before redirecting investors to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to the company, Helge, could I please ask you for a few closing comments?
Thank you. Well, I would just like to thank you all for attending, and it's kind of I'm very excited and optimistic at this point in time. I think we've had some great things happening in Longboat last few months, with and some big kind of steps with having Japex joining us in Norway, Petronas approving us in Malaysia. We are in a prime position actually to take some major steps. So thanks a lot, everyone.
Perfect. Helga, James, thank you once again for updating investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you will now be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order that the board can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, and I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of Longboat Energy PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation, and good morning to you all.